Any guesses what I'm up to? Hey yo, this is Dash. Yeah! Hey yo, this is Dash, and today I'm going to try and make pastrami. Well, actually, it's not going to be today, because if you know anything about pastrami and how it works, it takes a couple days to make said pastrami. First thing I had to do was get some corned beef. I have my corned beef, alright? This is corned beef brisket. I have that. This is about a 3 1/4 pound piece of corned beef brisket. And then I am going to make a brine. The brine is going to consist of salt, garlic, pickling spice, curing salt, and some sugar. So let's get this started. Alright, so I'm going to get my ingredients into a pan, and I'm just going to warm it up so that the salt, the sugar, and the curing salt can dissolve. So we're going to end up using 2 gallons of water, and then I have, I think it's a 1.5 cups of sugar, excuse me, 1.5 cups of salt, a cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of the pickling or the curing salt. I'm just gonna put in like a heaping handful of the pickling spice, and we'll see how many cloves of my garlic are actually viable, and we'll get those in too. Now my salt, sugar, and the curing salt have pretty much dissolved. I don't want to boil this, and I don't want to let it sit here for too long, because I'm really just trying to heat it up to help dissolve those salts and sugars. So at this point, the water is clear, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to my vessel where I'm going to store all of this. Alright, so if you guys have been around for a little while, you may remember seeing this container before. This was the original container that I used to use when I would sous vide different things. It was a little small, but the good thing is, and there's salt on my counter. Let me clean it up. The good thing is, it has graduated marks on it, so I'm going to go ahead and get this filled up to the 8. This is 8 quart, 10 liters, 12 pints. Oh, it's not a pint. Reading it backwards, it is quart. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and get this filled up to the 8 quart mark. That 8 quarts equals 2 gallons. Okay, so I have 8 quarts of water here, and I'm gonna get this corned beef opened up, and we're gonna just put it in there. So the corned beef came with a little bit of seasoning pack. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that into the water as well. Just seems like a little bit of coriander. Now, I need to weigh this down. So I'm gonna get a plastic bag and put some water in here to hold this down, and we should be pretty much good to go. Well, I'll see you in about a week. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Hopefully you remember this. I started this brine with this corned beef brisket in a brine. It was about a week ago. So now what I'm gonna do is get it ready to get put inside of the smoker. At this point, what I have to do is I have to rinse it, and I'm gonna put some pepper and coriander on it and then put it into the smoker and let it do what it does. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is get the corned beef brisket out of the brine, and I'm gonna rinse it thoroughly. I've already cleaned out my sink, so I'm gonna get gloved up and get to work. Now, when I put the corned beef into the brine, I used a plastic bag to weigh it down, just so that I would make sure that it was thoroughly submerged in the water, well, in the brine. All right, my little corned beef brisket that could is brine. All right, so my little corned beef brisket that could has been rinsed off, and again, it was sitting in the brine for 6 days, and there's a pretty big piece of fat here. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna score it to help get the seasonings I'm gonna put on top down in there. The last time I had a pretty big piece of fat like this, I thought about scoring it and I didn't, which was when I cooked those lamb ribs. If you haven't seen that video, I suggest you go ahead back and check it out. But so I'm gonna score this, and I'm just getting down through the fat. At least this is the thick fat cap here, because this is the flat. This is a piece of the flat. And you see how I just got down through the fat so I can get some seasoning down in there. You know, my thermometer is always telling on me. I have the smoker started, ready for this piece of meat to get in there. I'm gonna put a light score all the way across the whole thing, just to help get some of those extra seasonings, that flavor down into the meat. That heat and smoke down into the meat. Okay, so now we're all scored up. All right, so let me introduce you to something a little, this is my spice grinder. It is actually a coffee grinder slash spice grinder. I've had this thing for quite some time, and what it is it used to pull double duty and take care of my coffee grinds as well as my spices, but I've since upgraded to a dedicated coffee grinder, so this is just for my spices. I'm going to use like a quarter cup each of black pepper and coriander. I'm gonna get it ground up, and then I'm gonna get my corned beef brisket seasoned. Okay, so again, I'm gonna be using coriander and some black pepper. So, I'm gonna add a little more. And a little more. Do you guys do this? Label your seasonings on the top so you can get to stuff easier? If you don't, you should. Pro tip. Do you guys want to see a like a little behind the scenes of my seasonings, or a walkthrough of my seasonings? I think that might be the next BBQ Tools video. Now, when using this, I'm not gonna go full on. I'm just gonna pulse it. And I turn it off to the side to help get things broken up. All right, we're looking pretty good. There are still some whole peppercorn seeds in there. I think I'm gonna pulse it just a little bit more. Now, I'm gonna season my corned beef. Now, I'm gonna leave my seasonings right in the grinder, and I'm gonna go ahead and get everything laid out. And I want a nice, even, heavy, thick coat on here. We've all had pastrami before. One of the best parts of the pastrami is that seasoning, that crust of seasoning on the outside. That extra little bit of seasoning paid off. So I'm gonna get this pad in here pretty well. Get this turned back over and the same. We're gonna get it massaged down in there. Let's try to gather up some of these peppercorns and such and get them massaged down into the fat there. Man, this thing smells amazing. All right, my little corned beef is ready to go. I'm gonna get this out into the smoker and we'll let it smoke for a couple hours, and then I'll bring it in and finish it in the house. Hey yo, this is Dash, and wait, I've actually already started the video. So where I left off, I told you I was seasoning the corned beef brisket and I was getting it in the smoker. So I have finished the corned beef brisket, and it is no longer corned beef brisket. It was actually probably pre-pastrami, but I've gone ahead and smoked it, and then I have finished it. I finished it in the oven. I actually was cooking some other food today, so I had the smoker going, and here we go. You guys ready for this? All right, now I didn't peek in here. Now the good thing was it was a smaller piece of corned beef brisket. So I don't know exactly how this is gonna turn out. But I'm gonna let it rest for a few moments, and then I'm gonna get it sliced up, and we'll see if I actually made pastrami or not. Okay, so I am back, and I let the pastrami rest for a few hours. I had a bunch of other things going on, but let's cut into it. Now, I didn't cut into it at all, so you guys are gonna see what happens just as soon as I am. So give me a moment. I'll get the camera pointed down on the cutting board, and I'm gonna start calling the pastrami. And the pastrami, I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. Now, I'm turning it over real fast just so I can see which way the grains are running. The grains running this way, so I'm gonna cut it this way. All right, now I can tell you it smells pretty good, but wish me luck. I'm gonna cut a decent piece off the front. Oh man, that looks like pastrami. This looks like a piece of the flat. I mean, a piece of the point and not of the flat. There's a lot of fat down in there. Now I'm gonna slice the whole thing. Alright, I can't take it anymore. What do you guys think? That to me looks like, this looks like the point and not the flat. This looks like the fattier bit. You can see a lot of the fat in between there. Let's finish slicing it and then I'll taste it. I mean, it definitely looks like corned beef, but it doesn't look necessarily like pastrami. It doesn't have that deep reddened color like pastrami does. But let's do this the old-fashioned way, and we're gonna taste it. So let's make some room on a cutting board. Slice a couple pieces off of this one. Okay, taste test time. So I'm gonna take, there's a bit of fat on here. I'm gonna take that bit off just cause it wasn't, I don't know. I'm gonna cut the fat off first, try it without the fat, then see if I actually like it. So we'll see how this is. Here it goes nothing. You know how difficult it is to hold a straight face knowing you're on camera? Just to make the anticipation of finding out how this turned out, better or worse for you guys. I think I'm gonna try another piece. All right. Okay. So, initial impressions, it's not the worst thing I've ever eaten or the worst thing I've ever cooked, but is it salty? Yes. I think the problem I have here is my piece of the corned beef brisket was way smaller than I think the brine called for. I think it's just the meat was way smaller than the amount that whoever made that brine recipe I followed. It really is very salty. Now I probably should have soaked the brisket in water for, you know, a few hours or something like that. All I did was rinse it off, and it is not, you can eat it definitely, but it is way saltier than I would like it to be. So take that with a grain of salt. I mean, no pun intended, really. But look, hey, if you liked this fail, in my opinion, if you like this, if you like this fail, in my opinion, if you like this video, if you learned something or if you liked it, please leave me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and come on back and see me next time, all right? Thank you again, as always, for watching.